Hello, the Birkin School podcast listeners. Today's topic is one that hands over nicely from some of the earlier, the last few podcast episodes that I have put out. But I really wanted to dig into this topic distinctly because I've been seeing this pattern in a few places. One person that I follow on Twitter said, and she's absolutely right, and she's spot on with a lot of what she says. She said that one key thing she sees with men is that they work on their financial and material wealth, but completely ignore the spiritual, the emotional, the mental, just like they don't get right within, they don't do any inner work whatsoever. It's just really this like quest for material status and financial status, but very little personal development in the other areas of life that are so vital and so very important. And I replied to her, not in a means at all to correct her or anything, but just to add to it, because I think she's spot on. And I think this also mirrors a phenomenon where women talk endlessly about the type of material wealth and the type of financial blessing they want the man that they're with or the man that they marry to have, but spend virtually no time or energy talking at length about, or sharing, at least with social media, or talking at all about the type of intellectual, emotional, spiritual health, wellness, and stability they want this person to have. It's almost like men are just responding to what women want out there. If men know that having money and having material and financial stability will win them what they view as high quality women, because keep in mind, these men have not done any emotional, spiritual, intellectual work on themselves, right? They're very low vibrational, low value men when it comes to this area. They're not going to look for a partner who has, because they don't want that accountability. They're not going to look for a woman who's done emotional healing, who's done spiritual work, who's done a number of things to expand her intellectual capabilities in this world. They're really going to look for that transactional relationship. Men have been fed, as have women, this dynamic of women trading their pretty and trading their looks for financial stability. And it is almost always a recipe for disaster, because it really doesn't favor women at all. And I don't understand why women can't see this. If a man is using his financial stability to buy your pretty, he's getting more money, he's earning more as time goes on. But honestly, up until a point, your looks aren't increasing, your looks aren't staying preserved, you're aging. And then what happens? It's a tale as old as time, or at least as old as what marriage has been about for the last 100 years, which is men trading in for the younger, for the new wife, for the second wife, for the third wife, and still managing to preserve their financial and material stability. And who can blame them? Sorry. If that's what you solve for, that's what you were always going to arrive at. And I'm not bothered by people saying that's not very feminist of you. Sorry. I don't think a transactional relationship is very feminist of anyone. And it's not something that makes any kind of sense to me. I personally want my equal. I want someone equally yoked to me in all ways. And as a woman who's invested in her education and focused in her career, that doesn't mean that I'm then, living this small life, unable to travel, unable to do the things I want. And maybe that's the difference between me and some of the women who focus themselves solely on this self-productization. But I digress. This woman and I had this exchange, and it was perfection, because we're both here acknowledging a pattern that exists, kind of the supply and demand curve, that women don't care too much. Many women, not all. Many women don't care too much about a man's emotional, spiritual, intellectual health and stability. They really just are super concerned about finding financial stability and security through a man. And that is very different than the provider conversation, because I fundamentally do agree that men should be providers. If women are the ones in relationships that want children, in most, cis hetero relationships, women are having children. And that takes a certain burden on the body, a certain responsibility of the woman, in which case the man should be the financial provider. Both can provide. We've been over this. I have a whole podcast topic dedicated to this that kind of outlines my mindset and why I feel the way that I feel. You don't have to agree. You don't have to even see the light of my point. Just if you're going to read my books, take any of my master classes, it's important to understand that that's where I'm coming from, and that perhaps you may not agree and you may not subscribe to that, but you can use some of the thinking that I've outlined and some of the principles to formulate your own worldview, which go off. That's what I really hope anyone who finds my content and engages with it, I hope that's what they do, is they use it to inform and find their own path and their own opinion and their own, this is what's right for me. Sorry, I'm still getting over the flu, as you know, and it's like negative, who even knows, with the wind chill here in Chicago. So kind of struggling a bit because I went out for a sprinkles cupcake earlier because I'm obsessed with anything that's like peppermint and chocolate at the holiday time. Can't really stand it any other time of the year, but I absolutely was dying for one of their peppermint chocolate cupcakes. So my husband and I went on a walk this morning before he went to do jujitsu, and it was so cold, and I'm still struggling to like breathe properly. Anyway, moving on from that, you can probably hear the wind howling behind me as I'm speaking because it's kind of just whipping its way around our apartment and has been for like, I don't even know, 48 hours, 50 hours at this point. So then the second topic I want to bring up, because the first was just sort of like, here's what I've encountered this week around this topic that's led me to want to talk about this in the podcast. So then the second thing that I found really interesting this week is there's someone that I follow on Instagram. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name and shame. Like, who does that? There's someone I follow on Instagram, and I've really noticed with her content, she's really taken a turn and started talking about, just really obsessively talking about, like we're talking, her last 3 or 4 posts have been about men with money and how she only wants a man with money and how people need to date within their income level, and that she's out of their income level because of the things that she wants in this life. And really, this is a nuanced topic. I absolutely believe women should set energetic standards for the type of man they want. If you want to carry the load 50-50, if that's empowering to you, that's the energetic sort of frequency you should be setting. If you're one of those people that feels like a man should be the provider, but I want to be the co-pilot on the building of this grand empire together, so be it. Set that energetic minimum. If you're the type of woman who says, I want to contribute to our home and to our life together in non-monetary ways, you give me money, I'll double it, I'll multiply it, I'll make a beautiful home, I'll make a beautiful vacation series for us throughout life, I'll make a beautiful life for all of us. It's just, you're the provider, you're the breadwinner, and I will use my feminine alchemy to make it so much more than what I was given. If that's your prerogative, if that's what you want, go off. Like, maintain that energy. Don't accept anything less than exactly what you want. And I encourage men to do the same. If men want a woman who is a stay-at-home wife and mother and is happy and feels that is an expansive, evolutionary part of her life and is what she wants, then hold out for that, right? Hold out for that. Set that energetic minimum. If you want a woman who can talk business over the dinner table, who can help you raise an empire, who can help you train future leaders of this empire you've built together, hold out for that woman. Hold that energy. She does exist. Trust me. Like, I want everyone to have what they want, because that ultimately creates more happiness and fulfillment in the world, which can counter some of the darkness in the world. So everyone should get what they want. When it becomes a problem is when you start seeing it like this. And I want to be very adamant. A lot of women spout this high value woman nonsense. Nothing wrong with saying high value woman and high value man. I certainly use those terms, but I define them very differently because I've gone down a path of healing, written some books about it, made some master classes about it, right? Like, I've gone down a certain path. So my definitions may differ from people who still have a lot of wounds, especially those who have wounds around stability and security and self-worth. And so when this whole thinking of a high value man, high value woman becomes a problem is when you see someone, and we're going back to my Instagram example, when you see someone posting and talking at length. Like, it's the only content they put out where they talk about what they're monetarily worth from men and what men should be providing them because of the quality of person that they are. There's a point where this starts to become just self-productization, and it starts to become more about proving to the world and proving to yourself what you're monetarily worth. It's like, it's almost as if she's putting a price tag on herself because that is what gives her self-esteem and that is what gives her self-worth, or she's attempting to make that be her self-esteem and self-worth. And it's really unhealthy for these reasons. One, it requires an observer. It requires for her to feel good about herself and to feel that she's a high value woman. She needs all of us to see, process, digest, and accept that she's worth a certain monetary amount, a certain lifestyle, etc. So it's like, if your self-esteem depends on an observer or depends on other people to know something about you and believe that to be true, that's not self-esteem. Secondarily, this becomes toxic because you're not focusing at all on, back to our original point, the emotional, the intellectual, the spiritual wealth and abundance of the man. She really just talks at length about how she wants a man of this financial means, and she's worth this and this and that, and a man better provide this. And if he can't, he needs to leave her alone because he's trying to date outside of his income level. At no point does she talk about the type of spiritual stability this man should have, the type of emotional stability and maturity, the type of intellectual development and stability that this man should have. She never talks about these other 3 of the 4 key areas in life that this person should have put work into and reached a certain level before he comes and approaches her. And that's a recipe for disaster. And let me tell you why. I think there's a real tendency for people to overemphasize this because they are unhealed. I think there's a real tendency for women to feel a lot of instability and insecurity in their financial life. I mean, that's why I wrote Working for a Birkin, because I had a lot of those same thoughts and feelings and fears, and I knew they were a problem. I knew that I wasn't going to be who I wanted desperately to be, but was terrified I could never reach. I wanted to be this career woman. I wanted to have a certain lifestyle and earn a certain amount for myself, and more important than all that, have a certain inner peace and a certain confidence and stability in the world. And I wanted to provide that for myself. But I felt a lot of fears. I felt society's conditioning. And instead of just kind of relenting to the pressure of my unhealed wounds and relenting to the pressure of society, I decided to look into all those things and heal them for myself. And that's why I wrote Working for Birkin. But I think a lot of people still have these wounds, and a lot of people still have these issues and imbalances, but rather than see them for the problem that they are and address them, they instead dress it up like this very glorified, I own the term, I'm a gold digger and I'm proud sort of status. But that's really dangerous. And I'm going to tell you why. Because this is the way the universe works. The universe works, according to me and according to a lot of people who agree with this thinking. You can agree, you don't have to, but it's food for thought either way. The universe works on vibration. And this is the law of vibration. There's universal laws. You can Google them and research them. I talk about them a lot in Breathwork at Tiffany's, just sort of an introduction to these topics for people to explain how things really work and how manifestation and how our intuition and how energy really works and how it's out there influencing, because we are energy. We are, and energy is out there influencing our everyday life. So when you're a woman who is fixated on not the other 3 areas of a man and his entire package he's bringing to you, when you're not focused on emotional stability, when you're not focused on intellectual stability or spiritual stability, you're really only focused on monetary, material stability. You're likely doing that. Sorry. And it's the same reason why this girl that I'm referencing is posting this Instagram content. She's doing it to cultivate an emotion in herself. I promise you, she posts these things and she goes back and she looks at them constantly to reaffirm this reality for herself, because she doesn't need a man with money. She doesn't need someone to provide a lifestyle for her. What she needs is the emotional state of feeling like she's worth that. And we'll get into this in a minute of why that's probably not going to pan out for her. But like that's the gist here is it's a real obsession with feeling a certain way emotionally about herself. She needs to feel like she's worth it. She clearly has some wounds and some issues, probably from her life as a child, right? These are probably inner child wounds regarding being worth someone's money, worth someone's providence, worth someone paying her way through life. There's probably some father wounds there. Like, I'm speculating, but more often than not, when the patterns are there, the origin exists. And so what we have going on here is someone who's manifesting from a place of wanting a certain emotional state. The man she's going to match with is going to be someone who wants a woman, probably wants a woman for how she looks, to buoy their emotional state. So now you have a man who wants a woman who looks a certain way, who focuses on her appearance, who invests in her appearance, and can be a sort of a buoy for his own self-esteem. You have a man who does not see a woman at all as a woman, as a person. You see someone who sees a woman as an object, as a possession to elevate his status, like a man would a sports car or really expensive watch. So by not solving for, because she's manifesting from a place of wounding and a place of insecurity and instability within her own life, she's kind of ensuring that she doesn't have someone who's a financial provider, but also an emotionally sound person who wants to connect and value a person for their individuality. A man who's spiritually connected, who looks to look beyond the material. Yes, material things can provide us comforts, but that's all they provide us. They do not provide us self-esteem. They do not provide us our place in the world. They do not make us better than everyone else. Those are the kinds of things that insecure people think. When you are spiritually developed, you understand that material goods and possessions provide us certain material comforts in this world. But there has to be an equal balancing of the spiritual and development of the spiritual self so that we understand where we need to heal and so that we no longer have these deep attachments to things. They're only things. And when you start to place so much of your self-identity and your self-value and self-worth into material things and what you do or don't have, it's going to be an endless chase to get more. You will never be satisfied. Your cup will never be full in that regard. It's always chasing that emotion again, chasing that hit again. That's why you have people who are shopping addicts, or people who have a lot of people have tremendous credit card debt that they have no hope of paying off because they're just chasing that emotion. They want to feel abundant. So buy another luxury thing. Feel abundant. Buy another luxury thing. If you heal that wound, you will feel abundant carrying a bag that you bought from Walmart, wearing a watch you bought from a thrift store, because abundance is about your state of mind and feeling that the universe has your back. It's about having comfort, but not needing it for your mental stability, right? I'm the last person to tell you that you shouldn't want nice things that will last. It's important to buy things once and buy them forever. It's better for you. It's better for the environment. It's better for everyone involved. And then you can hand those things down, which continues your emotional connection to loved ones. Like, I'm all about buying quality, but I'm not about this endless, never-ending, never-closing, just valley, endless pit of desire for more and more and more and more things, because you have some sort of self-esteem and self-worth and stability issue you need to work on. And so to summarize, by virtue of this woman focusing so much on a man who's a material provider and a financial provider and has this financial wealth, she's not focusing on manifesting a man of emotional, spiritual, and intellectual wealth, which means she's probably matching with someone who sees her as an object, someone who can add to his financial and material wealth, someone that's an object to join his menagerie, to prove his self-worth out into the world, because they're both matching on what? Their shared insecurity, their shared instability. So it's really, you're creating a union there that's built on buying and acquiring more things and showing off and keeping up with the Joneses. A lot of women believe that because they live in a lower income space or an average income space and they're insecure, They start to believe and fantasize, when I have more money, I'll be at peace. When I have more stability, I'll be at peace. The problem here is your emotional and spiritual wounds around the topic. That's why you don't feel at peace. Having more money and being with a man who's in that same competitive, for unhealthy reasons, sort of place where he always wants more and he wants to compete and compare with there's always going to be someone with more money than you. That is the way the world works. That doesn't mean they're happier than you. That doesn't mean they're more at peace than you. The key here is to heal your wound. Really, the grand irony of it all is people can go on this huge quest and focus all their energies on the wrong thing, believing that more money, more abundance from a place of insecurity and instability is going to finally give them that inner peace. It's only going to make you continue to want more and have you continue, or a deep fear that you're going to lose what you do have. The key here is to remedy the wound itself. Take it back to square one. Fix this wound within yourself, and then step out into the world and manifest a partner from a place of abundance in all areas.